What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday. BobbyFi, as usual, with my man Eric Sheets Haber for True DFS. We coming off not a great night for me, and it sounds like it wasn't a great night for a lot of people out there. It was a very strange, small slate, but we have all the options in the world on this massive slate, and it's going to be interesting. Sheets, how did you do? And then what are you? Any sort of first thoughts on tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I suspected the last night was going to be like 100-point, you know what I mean? 100
Yep.
points to win type of thing. And I was right that the pitching was awful. Mine was a little more awful than others, and I got a couple. I did all right. I did all right in a couple of spots. I liked Seattle; they did fine. They did well.
Yep.
I forgot exactly where I got negative stuff, but I just it just didn't happen. It's daily fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it was. I was too heavily on the Yankees, obviously, which, as with most of the world, and even if I had a good other stats.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I did worse than I thought, because I told you I went 0 Yankees, and yet I still lost. So maybe I did something bad.
No, I mean, it just was one of those things. It was hard to get the right exact mix of Seattle and Baltimore as not the two teams. But again, I've always got I should always, when people were asking me yesterday, that one of the questions we were getting in the live thing a lot was about Seattle, and against Walker individually, I liked them, but I didn't want to make a full stack because of the bullpen. But on a short slate, I probably should have been a little bit more on them. So
well, I'll tell you something else. A couple of things about yesterday. One thing to write about. I mean, dude, that guy is just really bad chalk whenever he's chalk. That Haney. Yeah, and it was exactly the reason why. I mean, he was striking people out, whatever, but he just gives up so many freaking home runs. It's like ridiculous,
Right. High strikeout rate and a high home run rate to righties. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, and the other thing was interesting about the Seattle spot was that you were sort of right about it, in that, like, Waka, they left him in there like he was done, and then he gave up basically all the runs. Seattle's bullpen was kind of fine,
Tampa's bullpen was good. It was just that they got
Seattle's. Yeah. Tampa's bullpen was fine. They just left Walker in to take the freaking damage.
I know. It was weird. All right, well, let's pull up your screen and let's get into tonight's slate. Let's see what we got here. I'm just pulling up my numbers. I don't have there's not an overall on these slates usually someone I say that you must play or anything like that. All I can say is, and it'll come up in the first game, so I guess we can just start off right there. It's going to be very hard for me not to have some of the Wheeler chalk here. I'm very interested in Wheeler. I love this guy, as we know, and I think his strikeout stuff is as good as anybody's. I think this lineup is obviously depleted, and he did just pitch against them and didn't actually have a great game. But again, different lineup now, much weaker, and I am going to be all over Wheeler. I also am going to have interest in Patrick Corbin in this matchup. I look, it's a huge slate, so I probably won't have any of it by the end of the day, is the truth. But at first glance, I'm still willing to take a look and take shots at this guy in certain situations. And this is a medium enough spot for him. I just don't think he's quite as bad. He keeps getting hit in the 5th and 6th inning, and he just pitched against his team. The same thing happened. The strikeouts are low. I'm probably not going to end up getting to it, to be honest, but it's just the first guy I had who was a value, who I actually thought about at all. But in reality, probably better off taking Philadelphia bats.
I'm gonna have probably 5 lineups tonight, only because I'm gonna be going out kind of in the late afternoon.
Tell them what you're doing.
Yeah, so we're going to see Lady Gaga and
Tony Bennett
perform for, I guess, for one of the last times. They've been touring together to some degree for years now, and so Mrs. Sheets and I are heading into Radio City Music Hall for that.
That's awesome.
And so I'm not going to be able to do multi-entries really. So I'm going to be playing 5 lineups, and all 5 of them are going to have Zach Wheeler. And the other thing I was going to say, by the way, I think that if I played 20 lineups, they'd all have Zach Wheeler. And I think if I have 150, they might all have Zach Wheeler too. I totally agree with you. I think he's a standout on today's slate, and he's definitely my number 1 pitcher on DraftKings. I did not get to any really of the hitting on either side, and that was my deal with this game.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I do think there's some, I have like a tiny, like, it's weird. Did say the nice things about Corbin, that not nice things. He's been so awful. I'm just having a hard time believing he's really this bad and that the strikeouts are gone. And, you look at against this specific lineup, he has a 40% strikeout rate against the lineup he'll be facing today or projected to be facing. And that's over 160 plate appearances. Like, that's not a tiny number, but can we just accept, maybe I just have to accept for me that this is just not the same Patrick Corbin. And I guess that's the, do I believe that or not? I don't believe it entirely. I think I'm still not going to end up having him, but he is a wild card play if you're playing 150 that I think you'd want to get a couple pieces of. But in reality, the best play is probably Rhys Hoskins and JT Realmuto. If you're going to play any hitters from this game. Not only in addition to the fact that they both hit lefties really well, but they've also had Hoskins has had really good success against Corbin in a medium sample size. So that's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, we're going to hold on to that thought when you say this is just not the same Patrick Corbin. We're going to get to a similar thing about somebody else later.
Okay.
Okay, so Baltimore Yankees?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you start this one off with the pitching, because I don't think I can get to either. I don't think I can get to Cortez. Although he's pitched really well his last time out, they actually let him in there longer, but there's no reason to really go there on this slate. No pitching, right?
He hit the nail right on the head in that I could get to Cortez if I had to, but I don't have to. That's the best I could describe it. With respect to hitting, though, I mean, the Yankees kind of disappointed yesterday, to say the least, and with I guess just a decent amount of the ownership, I would imagine, flowing out to Coors Field. I look, not that the Yankees are going to be low owned by any stretch of the imagination, but they're certainly going to be lower owned and than they were yesterday, I presume, especially with this huge slate. And I have no problem just banging right back out to banging them out there again, right? Absolutely.
And I mean, look, it's ugly when it gets ugly sometimes, and it feels worse because you have, how can these guys not hit these guys, all this stuff. First, I just want to say one thing, like, this is a better matchup than yesterday was. As much as Lopez is, the one thing about Lopez, who was pitching yesterday, is he's not a good pitcher, but he doesn't like tend to give up a ton of home runs or anything. And this Yankee team is built on home runs and walks. Like, you're not getting stolen bases out of these guys. This is a team that's not going to run. They're going to beat the hell out of the ball, or they're going to strike out. Oh, the walks and strikeouts, I should have left that in there as well. I am going to be all over the Yankees again, probably today. Call it stubbornness, call it the fact that they have a 6.2 run total at home. And
that's what you call it. It's nothing to do with stubbornness. They're still in a tremendous spot with a freaking stacked lineup in a great stadium. You know what I mean? Like,
against the bad bullpen, a great stadium. They've got I don't mind the lefty matchups in case the ownership does get too heavy, because, I don't know if people are going to want to pay 4.7 for Rizzo and $5K for Gallo in a lefty spot. And I'm absolutely happy to stack the Yankees. They're a priority for me again. And I don't think I need, but the thing is, like, maybe I don't need to go because of what I was saying about the nature of how they play. The walks are good for stacks. So it's this is a tough one to figure out sometimes for me. But you also have guys like Rizzo who walk so much, or Judge who walks so much, that if you're making stacks, you can actually make an argument for leaving those guys out on large slates because of that factor. You know what I mean? We're not playing the guys for walks, but at the same time, it keeps the offense turning, and you get more at bats and obviously more runners on that you're hitting with. So maybe that would be one way to do it if it did get too popular, but I don't think that it's going to be today, because we do have Coors and we have some other good spots too. So I do like the Yankees a lot, though. And by the way, along with what we say every single day, there is value in Cortez. I think is kind of interesting, but look, we've got another lefty here against, a bunch of really cheap righties who just keep hitting home runs. Austin Hayes hits 28 fantasy points, and his price goes down, of course. He's down to 2,300. You got Santander in there at 2K. So I think we would have made money. I think if there's a way we could just bet on the Baltimore over every day. They seem to always get past it, and they're super cheap. Ryan Mountcastle, also another guy for me. I like sort of taking a few of these bats. I don't think I want to fully stack them, because the Cortez combined with, I think is solid with a decent, again, I know they've struggled recently, but overall a very good bullpen. I I think you got a decent spot though to try and maybe take a few bats here, and you can play Mullins as a fourth of your guys, in addition to the ones I just mentioned, or you can play Mancini. By the way, I would have cashed everything on FanDuel, but I ended up going Mancini over Mullins, and it bothered me because I didn't want to take, because I didn't take the lefty. I don't know. I should have played Mullins. He had a monster day yesterday, but I think Baltimore bats are definitely in play as well.
Cleveland, Toronto. I have Ryu as one of a whole bunch of possible SP2s, and again, get used to the way when I say SP2, I don't necessarily always mean like the cheap ones, just mean with the second pitcher. You know what I mean? Like it so happens on this board that's what it means also. But Wheeler is going to be the first pitcher I use, and I think Ryu is certainly one of 1, 2, 3, 4, several pitchers I'm going to use as maybe my second pitcher. Certainly makes a lot of sense. I think Plesac is just good enough to keep me from really going for Toronto, but not quite good enough where I want to play him. So for me, it would be just some Ryu exposure on the pitching side and nothing on the hitting side.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always, me, basically anytime I see Toronto and I almost always just play them. I totally agree with what you said. I like Ryu actually a lot. I think that he actually might end up being one of the best pitchers on the slate. And, the thing about Ryu is that he's actually like just an excellent pitcher that's dealt with some injury things. But just for people who haven't looked at it, go through his game log. Even when he's not, there's some games where he didn't strike as many people out, where it's tough matchups like the White Sox and things like that. But he's pitching deep into these spots. So when you get a team that does strike out and doesn't have a lot to worry about against lefties like Cleveland, and also just the fact that 3 of his last 4 games he's put up 23 or more fantasy points. Good chance at the win here tonight. So I'm a fan of Ryu, and I'm never going to say I won't play any Baltimore bats Toronto bats, because by the end of the day, if I find enough room for a one-off of Guerrero or something like that, I'm probably going to do it. But I don't think that they're a target of mine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we get Molly and Maeda in Minnesota, and this is an interesting spot. Why don't you start off? Because I might be in the vast minority, because I don't see why this is not popping off the page a little bit more.
Yeah, so I have both of these guys as possible for me to use my second pitcher on DraftKings, Molly and Maeda. And that's where I'm at with that. I will also say that right now Molly is my top pitcher on FanDuel. He's just really cheap over there. And I think Molly will get owned even at 10K on DraftKings. I mean,
he's not the one I was talking about. It's Maeda.
Well, I'm getting there.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I think Maeda, he won't get quite. I mean, I think he'll get 10% though. But I like him. I like both of them. I think they're both legitimate SP2s or second pitchers to Wheeler, and I'll listen to you as far as which one is better.
Well, I like the discount in price for Maeda for one thing. Molly has a 6.5K prop. Maeda has a 5.5. The thing that worries me a little bit is Minnesota doesn't have, maybe as much to play for as they thought they would this season. But I mean, Maeda, even in limited pitch, I mean, these are all like limited pitch count games, 35, 22, 18, 17. I guess what I'm really trying to figure out is I feel like both these teams' run totals are way, way, way too high. I mean, I know the bullpens aren't good on either side, but I don't understand why it's 4.7 and 4.3, for each of these teams. I feel like it could have almost been a run lower. I understand since in Cincinnati, I have a lot of interest in Maeda here, a little more than Molly, but I do like Molly as well. Again, not huge priority for me, Molly. Maeda maybe by the end of the day. There's a lot of strikeouts in this Twins lineup. And there isn't we don't have Nelson Cruz anymore.
Nope.
We don't have third base, Josh Donaldson. You know what I mean? This is not like the same terrifying lineup. I like some of these rookies. I like Larnach. I like Rooker. Miguel Sano strikes out 42% of the time against righties. I am not on the side of trying to take the hitters in this game. I am on Maeda's side mostly, and a little bit of Molly.
Hey, by the way, I forgot. I will get to the game later, but victory lap on my first baseball bet advice of like 3 years, right? San Francisco over whatchamacallits?
Yeah, there you go.
There it is, minus
Yeah.
the 150. They won by enough, right? That's fair enough.
I feel like they would have run. You could have given up 4 runs and you would have been pretty.
That's
pretty
the thing.
content.
I left the money on the table. I should have taken the 12-1 minus 3.5 runs or something like that.
I like it though. All right, we got an interesting spot in the next one with Walker and
Yep.
Bryce Garrett.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not playing. I don't think we're playing hitters in this game. I think it's a full slate and it's not quite worth it. Maybe you could definitely argue for a one-off of anybody from the Mets for me. But there's no question that Pete Alonso would be the one who stands out. You get him against the lefty. Immense power, doesn't really matter where he hits. He hits in a terrible hitter's park anyway. You have an extreme hitters umpire, which is kind of annoying me a little bit. And you have the fact that Taijuan Walker has been not just bad, but real bad. But then you look a little, he got roughed up by Pittsburgh in the one game. I'm willing to throw out one game, but then he pitched terribly against Toronto. That's okay. It's Toronto. Then I go Atlanta, but then all of a sudden I'm making too many justifications. And what has happened to him? And I haven't found anything except for that most of his demise has come somewhat since the sticky stuff thing. And I'm not saying that don't want to implicate anybody. I'm just saying it is that same timeline. And it worries me because he would be a guy who naturally would be my SP2 today. So I have Walker with a question mark. I want to do a little bit more digging and see if he's changed his pitch type or anything like that, because I really don't understand what's going on with him. And the matchup itself, other than the fact that you've got an extreme hitters umpire, is a real good one, obviously, even though Miami did come out strong yesterday. So I'm iffy on Walker. That's where I am.
Hey, props to Grant. Maybe he was a fraud the whole time.
No, they're all wrong about this whole fraud thing. Good for you. It's really annoying because these guys are taking their victory laps on this one and not getting everything else wrong. It's like the guys who say, oh my God, how could you play Josiah Gray? He's giving up 4 home runs in 8 innings in the major league. I'm like,
right. You
guys are out of your mind. Like, this is not a real thing. Anyway, all right. So what are your thoughts? Like anything, what are we doing here? What are you doing here?
Like I said, I have Taijuan Walker rated high, about the same as another SP2 we'll get to. And I think that the uncertainty is probably going to keep me off of him, actually, if I had to pick, just because I do think the guys against Miami get a little over-owned in general. Mm-hmm. And that plus the uncertainty with what you just said probably would make him fall beneath some of the other guys in the end.
I agree with it. That makes a lot of sense.
Can
I ask you, should we just be playing Braxton Garrett and just saying, why are we not playing Braxton Garrett?
I don't even know who that is.
He's the pitcher for Miami. He just pitched 7 innings, had 10 Ks. He put up 32 against San Diego, which is like the worst team for a lefty to face. He gets to face the Mets team at home who struggled with lefties all season. I think that I'm going to dig a little further. I'm a little worried.
Wait, hold on. What is this July 25th thing?
What?
Saying that they optioned him to AAA Jacksonville, but they haven't started. What is? I don't even know.
This is a very typical thing of Miami, who doesn't tend to release their pitchers until later. But you got him as a starter right now, don't you?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
we got to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty common for Miami. They tend to switch pitchers and then they tend to not announce their pitchers.
Well, they bring them up to pitch the best game of the season, and then they option them back down.
It would make no sense. But they've been doing weird stuff like this, and I'm just looking right now. Hold on, it's already may have changed a little bit. That's why we have no total on this game, because Miami doesn't announce their pitchers.
Okay.
But if Braxton Garrett is in fact starting, I will take the guy with the high strikeout upside. I'll dig a little deeper, but he's 6K. Honestly, do we need to dig much deeper if we're going to take a shot on somebody? Then he's 6K, and he just last week against San Diego, the last team you'd want to face in the National League against the lefties, he put up 32 against them. Come on. Right. So he's on my take a shot list, but I do need to do a little bit more digging. But I definitely have Braxton Garrett as a guy I need to dig into.
Speaking of cheapos, go to the next game. Speaking of cheapos coming off of freaking big efforts, what about this Patino guy?
It takes the perfect path for him to get there. He can't give up. I think he can't give up a run in order to stay in as long. But yes, the upside versus the matchup, I think he's going to get a little bit of traction and some ownership today because of exactly what you're saying. And it's probably, probably a good play. I mean, until that point, we'd never seen Patino. He did throw the 5 innings, a couple times, but he basically has to go like scoreless, I think, to get, to his pitches, unless they've changed something. Again, another one I could probably dig a little further into. I know it's hard to say that, guys, but this is the first look of our stuff. We'll have the other stuff later on. But yeah, I'm really into. I'm not really into Patino. I'm very open to it. I just feel like there's a very until his last start, I would have said there's a very narrow range. And last start, he didn't give up any runs, which is why he stayed in there. But he did give up 4 and 5 in the 2 games previous. I think they were both, however, in the 6th inning. And I think he cruises through the first 5. He cruises through the first 5 in those, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He does have a 6.5 K prop. I mean, he's going to be owned. But obviously, Patino does make some sense, so he's on the list. How about for you here? Because I actually think you could make an argument for both these pitchers tonight.
Yeah, I gotta do a little bit of. I definitely gotta do a little bit of work with the Patino. And Kikuchi, yeah, I mean, I actually like playing him. I don't know if I could play him at that price. For me, like at least right now, he just kind of is just a little bit. I mean, I'm splitting hairs honestly, but maybe a little bit below the other guys, given value and all that stuff. But he certainly has upside. I mean, he throws gems from time to time. Mm-hmm. And Tampa is, people can throw gems against them. I mean, that's possible. He's just not quite in my top tier, I don't think.
Since May, Kikuchi has had 3 starts, and he's pitched every week. He hasn't missed a start. He's had 3 starts total, less than 6 Ks. And 2 of those were 5. One was 3 in a game where he had a bad game against Oakland. Yeah. But he's had 11, 8, 7, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, 5, 12, 7. He's got a 6.5 K prop. So does Patino. They both have a huge K prop today. You've got a slight pitcher's umpire in Hickox. They're both on my list. It's a multi-entry day, and we'll revisit our favorites at the end. But I am into both these guys a little bit, but I definitely slant more towards Patino. The Tampa lineup, even against lefties, has gotten a lot better with Nelson Cruz. It does change things a little bit when you're not, instead of batting a weak left-handed hitter, you're against lefties, you're batting Nelson Cruz. So I'm not going to take any bats in this game, but I do think both of these pitchers are interesting.
I will also say that Seattle's not bad, by the way, in general.
Yes, they are.
They're not. They're
Scoreboard, bro.
Yeah, scoreboard. Look at their record. They're like 27-15 in their last 40 games.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we can say they're not bad. They've been the worst team in baseball against right-handed pitching, other than the Rockies, the worst American League team in baseball. But I understand. I mean, but you can't really play them today, right? Like, who would you play?
No. I'm not. I don't feel like playing them.
No, I just was wondering if there was a further thing, but that's, you're right. Fine. Every team, yes, they're going through a good run of it. Boy, here's a weird one. Boston, Detroit. I honestly am surprised with these starting pitchers that the run total isn't much, much, much higher. I know it's in Detroit and it's not in Boston. I could have seen this with an 11 or 11.5 run total combined. It's 10. I love both these teams today. I rarely stack fully Detroit, and I know that we've, most of the time you stack Detroit and it's going to be the chalk, or not you, the royal you, the general public.
Yep.
I am not going I'm not that guy. I will take shots against Garrett Richards. And there's a lot of bats here actually that, it's an affordable stack. The rebirth of Miguel Cabrera, who, not in addition to your winning lineup the other night, I mean, I've seen him on a million first place winning lineups. He had the 2 home run game the couple games before. He had a home run a couple days before that. He's hitting the ball really, really hard.
Yeah.
He has a floor because he does walk, and like walks and singles and RBIs and stuff matter when you're 3.1 K, even though the position, you generally want to win first base. I'm a big fan here. I think Baddoo is an awesome play. I think Baddoo and Grossman are both awesome plays, actually. And I think you can mix in all these nonsense guys with the Scope and Haas. And I really think I could go 1 through 9 and make an argument. 1 through 8 probably, maybe leave Derek Hill out of there. But even these Castros down at the bottom, I mean, as a part of a 5-man, I'm open to. I'm actually a little bit more into Detroit. Well, no, that's not true. I really like Boston as well. You have a no strikeout righty with a terrible bullpen behind him. And even in Detroit, little revenge for JD. Even in Detroit, I just think this is a great spot. So I am all over this game. I think it's I hope there's an extreme hitters umpire. I hope that I haven't even looked at the weather yet because this is, again, first look. But as I look at it right now, if there's any other reason to even get me more on it, I can't imagine what that would be, because this is the game I want to target the most.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't quite get to the Detroit thing at first look. The guys that I got to were more the Bostons. That being just basically the normal guys. Bogarts, JD Martinez, Devers, and the new guy, Duran, and Kiki. I was playing around with them as a 5-man stack actually in my first in one of my first looks with them and the Yankees or another team or whatever. I gotta take a look at Detroit because I usually get to them before everybody does.
You definitely get to them before I do usually. I'm not the guy.
Yeah, so maybe you know what that probably means. Probably means you're gonna be lower owned this time.
They're going to be lower owned for sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to take another look at that. Yeah, and I'm with you. You know, Garrett Richards is certainly someone you could get. You know, if you get him on the right day. So yeah, I'll take another look at that. But obviously, neither of the pitchers for me. Are people going to play Garrett Richards? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm probably against Detroit, and you know what? Everybody else can have fun with that. I'll take the guy who has had. What does he have, like one over 12 fantasy point start in the last, I don't know, 15. I'll skip it. I understand it. It always come back to bite you, but especially against Detroit. But I'm not going to do it. I'm too on this hill. I want to attack Richards. Boston's bullpen behind him has actually been decent lately. But I really like this game. I mean, I'm going to be multi-entering today a little bit. And this is a big place I want to go with it. But I agree about Boston. And by the way, you know, all you guys listen to me in general about this stuff. I do my research. I generally have done incredibly well at baseball. Sheets is on fire. So take his instincts over mine at this moment by a long shot. You know what I mean? He's been way, way better than I have been over the past months, I should say. But I'm going to plant a flag and have a ton of exposure to this game on both sides offensively. It is blowing in a tiny bit, 5 miles an hour from center. That doesn't bother me. I'd love to see it 85 degrees and blowing out at 77 and kind of slightly blowing in. It is humid. I'm very, very into this spot. And I honestly think if this game was in Boston, you would see maybe 2 runs full, maybe even higher than that on the total. This would probably be the chalky game. And I'm willing to suspend some of my stadium relevance for the fact that it's just a great spot for both teams.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right. I actually feel really good about this one because I feel like I like when my natural feelings are maybe a little bit different than what everybody else is going to do. I don't know. Maybe they won't be, but that's what my first thought was. We do have LA and Texas here. Boy, I love to pick on Jordan Lyles, and I also don't love picking on anyone in Texas. I think Suarez is cheap enough to be in consideration on most slates. Maybe on a mass multi-entry slate, you could talk about him or Lyles even, to be honest with you. But I just think there's better spots to attack than these guys. Lyles was really good the last 2 times out for him. Those were against Arizona and Detroit. The Angels are a little bit better than those teams are. But you have an extreme hitters umpire. Lyles is 5.1. I mean, that's a significant savings. I just think tonight, with all these pitchers, while we don't need, I loved what you said a couple weeks back, and it's proven to be really true. I mean, hence your 6th place finish the other night with the pitchers combined at like 15, who cost $1 million. We can't expect these 30 plus games out of our pitchers anymore like we could earlier in the season. It's not happening that way. This is that time of the year. So if that's the case, if we can get 15 to 20 out of the cheap guys and we can win it with the bats, maybe Lyles and Suarez could both be in play. What are your thoughts on that? Am I losing my mind?
So this is it's so funny. So I as I mentioned before we started, I did a video today, me analyzing today's slate, kind of like from a slate overview perspective, just kind of using my sheets, just getting practice kind of doing that. Mm-hmm. And I haven't uploaded yet. I don't even know if I'm going to, but about 30% of the video was dedicated to the analysis of whether we need to play Jordan Lyles, believe it or not. And the reason why is when I first looked at at my pitchers, I said, okay, this is what I have. I have Wheeler is clearly the top option, and then there were like 4 guys based on the numbers they were at the time that were kind of tied for like an SP2 spot. And then, but I was noticing that all 4 of those guys were also going to be like, somewhat owned. And then I saw that Lyles was like basically just about the same, maybe just below that, and he was going to be like 5%. So what my analysis was, okay, what do I get for playing if I play Jordan Lyles? So that's why I was doing like kind of sample lineups of when have Jordan Lyles of what that gets you. And it turns out that I didn't really need to play him. Mm-hmm. But the point is that he is gonna be a decent play.
5.1K and a 5.5K prop is usually enough to tell you in a good pitcher's park that it's probably a decent play. Feels weird to say that out loud. I mean, like I'll pick on these Angels and this Texas team a little bit more than most teams, but I don't feel great about it. So I'm hoping to get away from it. And I also I feel like you could make a similar case for Suarez, maybe not quite the leash that Lyles has, but has flashed some upside before. So Suarez and Lyles are on my list, but I don't feel great about either. And I honestly think maybe on a different slate I'd get to these bats. As of the way it stands right now, if Upton's back in the lineup, I like Upton and I like Ohtani. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that certainly makes sense. I'm not going to get to either of them as a stack or anything like that, but you could always play. Like I said, you could always play Ohtani.
Yeah. If there was like 1 or 2 bats I liked better on the Angels, I mean, I kind of like Stassi as a catcher, so I could see an Angels getting all over Lyles. I just don't love the hitting environment, as I've talked about many times in Texas.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting game. You can make arguments every which way on it, and maybe we just don't need to on this giant slate.
Yep.
All right, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Hauser and Kranick. I'm not going to play either of these pitchers. We do have Alfonso Marquez behind the plate. Should be a great hitting environment. Milwaukee started to mostly let people down until the end last night. I think Milwaukee's a good stack again.
Yeah. First of all, it's so funny. I was a little curious to, while we were doing this, I kind of reran some numbers, and I actually am getting a little bit more Detroit than I thought I was going to. However, I neglected to mention from this last Angels Texas game that I do like a little bit of the Angels, and I also do like a little bit of Texas as far as value goes.
That's sort of what I came up with as well.
Yeah,
the same thing.
And however, one of my favorite value stacks teams continues to be freaking Pittsburgh. And again, it's the same issue, right? I mean, like they're not going to do enough probably to win a 14-game slate. But if you want to put them in for and the thing is that you don't even need them tonight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have two big 10K pitchers I really need to play. But they do rate to be okay. Gamel, Polanco, Nagowski, Reynolds, whatever this Rodolfo Castro, Cabrera, whoever. So I do have them rated high projection wise relative to their price. But I don't think we're going to need to play them. That's my comment, and I don't like either of the hitting.
I like everything you said actually about them being the cheap options that you can. I sort of feel like they use them as plugins, 1 or 2 of them maybe. Then again, I always think that like Brian Reynolds is one of the most underrated players in all of baseball. Great lefty power park. He's a switch hitter. Obviously, they're going to be getting the platoon advantage. Well, not platoon advantage. He'll be batting left-handed against Hauser. If my first instinct on this game would be to try and take the over on the game. They're giving Hauser a lot of credit. A 3.5 run total is really, really, really low. And I'm a little surprised by it being so low for a guy who basically gives up that in 4 or 5 innings every game. On a different slate, I actually would probably even talk about playing a little bit of Hauser, but not on this one. And unless he was like 5K like Lyles. But at the hitting side, I like Milwaukee today. They're not going to show up from a point per dollar standpoint because Tyrone Taylor's the bottom of the lineup. The Tellez will show up. but you've got the expensive Escobar, who was fantastic last night, obviously, and I think he's going to really enjoy playing in Milwaukee with an actual team. Adames, Narvaez, I think they're all good plays. Priorities, not really, but they're on my list as one of the stacks that I will be getting to some probably more secondary stack for me, but I do like them a little bit. And I think this Pittsburgh, not just the fact that their starters are all terrible at this point, but they're all volatile and they have what has been since the All-Star break, one of the worst bullpens in baseball. So that's why I have a little bit of interest there. And by the way, before the day's over, I would be shocked if not one person, somebody's going to mention Kranick as a potential play. I'm just not going to do anything like that.
Is he any good?
Well, I think there's implied upside with him. I don't see it personally, but I'm just not going to do it. KC in Chicago.
Yeah, this is the at least right now, the very lukewarm preferred SP2 for me being Dylan Cease. Extremely lukewarm though. I mean, I've never really had a lot of confidence when I played him. I'm getting somewhat biased because I just love playing KC, like in general. They always do like really well for me. But right now he's rated to be a pretty good play. That's the best I can describe it. Bubich at 5,800. I'm not getting there. I don't think I need to, but I do think that one day we're going to remember that Chris Bubich was 5,800 at one point.
I agree 100% with that.
Maybe not today or next the season, but I do have some. I can't even force them in. I know none of my optimizers are letting me play them, but I have some weird desire to play the White Sox for some reason. Just because like Tim Anderson is so ridiculously priced that I think that the entire team is going to be like no own. So that's the two comments I have. Is I like Cease, and I would like to try to play White Sox, but I just can't do it. I'm not playing enough lineups to get there, and that's pretty much it.
I'm 100% with everything that you said. I think Cease stands out today. 7.5 K prop is really high. First of all, I like Cease, and I would bet against that K prop. Like,
okay,
it's 7.5 feels really, really high. He did pitch 6 innings against this team and just had 6 strikeouts against them last time out. I don't know why we would assume on a back-to-back against them that he would have more. He hit 6 in the other game he faced them this year. KC is not a team that's overly heavy on strikeouts, although they've been striking out more since the break. I'm into Cease. I'm into that play. Again, there's a lot of pitchers that I'm considering on this slate. He's one of them. And I think that it's interesting that we had this game 5 days ago and the White Sox were literally, I don't think there was any player that wasn't like 25% owned. It was the most heavy chalk in the exact same matchup.
Really?
And now today, I think you're going to get none of that. So I am a fan of taking shots on the White Sox here. They've been terrible. They've let everybody down. They let everybody down that night too. But I think that you've got Andrew Vaughn, you've got as a cheapo, you've got Cesar Hernandez, who's just way too cheap in general. I really like Cesar Hernandez. I think he's going to add a lot to this team. And Abreu and Anderson with Adam Engel mixed in. I think those are all that's a solid way to go for a chance at a stack there. I'm good on the White Sox. They're just not my favorite team. I guess I'll put it that way.
The next game, I didn't get to any of it through my numbers and stuff, but part of me wants to like assess this slate, like just the battle for that SP2 spot between guys like Walker and Cease, and all these guys are all the same freaking price, and Free just falls right in there. He's 8,300. He's a good pitcher. He can get strikeouts from time to time, and I don't know. It depends how many lineups you play. I think that he should probably be considered.
Yeah, I would normally agree. The only problem I have here is the extreme right-handed dominance of the St. Louis lineup.
Right.
That sort of worries me a little bit in relation to him. I'm open to it though. He's just like you said, he's a really good pitcher. You're probably safe for your 15-ish points usually for him. I could see it going south for him. I am definitely going to get into Atlanta. I'm not going to. this is why I don't want it. This is why I don't have some of these other stacks. Like I would have Chicago as a higher stack. I do like Milwaukee, but I would have them even higher. But I don't care what anybody says. I'll take my shots against John Lester. What worries me is they won't let him in there to get too roughed up. But especially with Soler in the lineup probably today, you got him down there for Atlanta. Duvall will be back there. And then you can mix in the usual suspects with the Albies, Freeman, and Swanson, and Riley, and all the guys. I have Atlanta as definitely a stack that I like, and I'm very surprised at their run total. If you were asking me right off the bat, the best over/under, I would take this as the one I feel the strongest about, that Atlanta St. Louis goes over. I'm very high on them. I'm not going to take any bats against Fried just to stay on brand, and I don't see the need to. But if you wanted to, Tyler O'Neill is really cheap, and Dylan Carlson's really cheap, but I'm just not going to do it.
Colorado, Chicago at Colorado. I think that both teams are extremely strong. Neither of them were priced up, and they're all going to project to be extremely strong plays, and they're going to be owned accordingly. Bodie, Duffy, Wisdom, Contreras, Happ for the Chicago. And then on Colorado, I have Crone, Blackman, Story, Rogers, and McMahon. And if it's didn't make it as easy already, you could play McMahon either at second base or third, so you could make it work that way. And I'm not playing enough lineups where I think I got to use at least one of these teams somewhere. I don't know which one I like best right now. I would say, I don't know, like Colorado might be a little bit lower owned, but the Cubs might project a little bit better. So I think they're both the same. They're both top 5 stacks. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's going to make all the other value on the slate unowned. So that's one thing that just keep in mind. So guys like, we mentioned earlier, like whether it be Hayes or Santander or Gamble or Polanco, they just can't be owned because everybody's going to play Sam Hilliard. Everybody's going to play Bodie at third base. Everybody's going to play Ortega. Everybody's going to play McMahon. And I'm with all of that. I completely agree. I think you want to mix these guys in, but I'm much more on the Chicago side than I am the Colorado side of this. And I'm real quick while we're doing this, I want to bring up Adam Davies' career against this team, just because I think it's relevant. He should have had enough experience. The problem is they're a little different. They don't have as many. Zach Davies. Yeah. Excuse me. I always do that with Adam Davies. I'm just curious to see what sort of, mostly I'm curious to see his walk strikeout rate and see if they really are seeing the ball against him well. I mean, it's not as high of it's not as big a sample as I would have thought. No power shown, not many walks. I don't know. I'm just looking at it. Like if I just look at the game without the prices, I would probably say I don't really have that much interest in Colorado, assuming they're going to be really high owned. But then you see the prices, and McMahon and Hilliard especially just stand out as being crazy for value. If you're playing cash, you're probably going to have like 5 or 6 players from this game. It's really nuts. Yeah. I mean, Crone, everybody is just too ridiculous. Davies historically a little bit worse against righty power than he is against lefty power. But I mean, all these guys on the Cubs are just like, the Cubs are where I'd want to go here. I think Kyle Freeland is terrible. I know he's had some good outings recently. I will gladly just stack the hell out of the world against him. I know, like I said, I know he's pitched well recently. I'm not buying it. I like the Cubs, but I don't know if I want a full stack. I think I'm just going to probably take little 2 and 3 men's from this game because I don't really want to be with the chalk so heavy and build lineups that everyone else is going to build on a massive slate like this.
Yep.
All right. San Francisco, Arizona. What are your thoughts here? Go ahead and you start this one off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm you have no problem getting right back to San Francisco's again. I mean, they're a good hitting team. They're a good team. Bumgardner is, he's got tricks, but San Francisco's got some good bats. So I do like San Francisco. They're not my top stack or anything like that, but I think that once again, if they go, like as opposed to yesterday, if they go a little lower owned today, I certainly might consider some of that. Yastrzemski, Ruff, Crawford. I could care less if what the handedness of Bumgarner, honestly, and Posey, and I like that. And I did not get to Cueto. You could try to talk me into it though. I pitched a pretty gutsy game against the Dodgers last
He
night.
always does. He kills our Dodgers for some reason. He's tricky. I don't think, like, I expect him to be decent tonight. I don't have any problem with him as an actual pitcher. I just don't see the reason to. What is his price right now? I actually didn't really consider him as a pitcher.
7,000.
That's pretty cheap. The weird part is I actually found a little bit of interest in Bumgarner. These guys both have 5.5. No, oh my God, they made Bumgarner 80. Okay, I had the wrong. I was looking at FanDuel pricing. That's why I got confused. Yeah, I think that Cueto is in play along with a bunch of other guys, but probably beneath them for me, just because I like the other ones a little bit. I mean, he is playing Arizona. It's not the most strikeout friendly matchup, but it is a good matchup. Obviously, great upside with the roof is supposed to be closed again. Not a great hitter's park. I can maybe get to some Cueto, but I don't have as much interest in the bats personally, which is weird for me to say against Bumgarner. But I do think Chris Bryant stands out as an awesome play at third. Oh no! See, again, I was looking at FanDuel pricing. Chris Bryant is not still an awesome play. He's just a little more.
I like Austin Slater at 3K.
Yeah, the problem is you get the platoon stuff, and
Okay.
You got the guy who had 28 fantasy points who's supposed to go to the bench tonight. But Slater is a good value. I just don't think I'll be fully stacking this team. I think Darren Ruff is another one who's a good value. I don't even mind Yastrzemski and a lefty. It's just not my favorite game to target, and not a great hitter's park, really. It's totally fine. It's just not my favorite. I have San Francisco like 9th on my list, but that's actually pretty high considering how many options there are.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Oakland and San Diego.
So I mentioned earlier when you were talking about, oh, this is just not the same Patrick Corbin. I think we could really consider having that conversation about Blake Snell. But then again, maybe this is Blake Snell. Maybe this has always been Blake Snell. Just can't find the plate sometimes. You just can't. I like Manaea in maybe my 20th lineup. Which is not that bad. I just don't think I'm gonna be playing enough where I get there, but I like him a little bit. I don't like Snell really much at all. And I didn't get to much of the hitting. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have more interest in Manaea if this game was in the National League. He pitched, obviously he pitches mostly in the American League, but San Diego, you get the extra batter in there, the non-pitcher thing, because he was dominant against San Diego. And by the way, on a 2-game slate that day I think it was a 2 or 3-game slate.
I remember that.
And he was unowned,
Yeah.
or not unowned, low owned. He was like the 5th owned pitcher or 4th owned pitcher.
Yeah, I forgot there was one real like can't miss chalk that just got blown up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you want a guy with a ceiling. Manaea has a ceiling. Like that's if you are going to get 30 from somebody, he's definitely one of the better bets for it tonight. Like you, I'm probably still not going to end up with a ton of him. And I don't know what's up with Blake Snell. I expect him to bounce back next year or later, even this year, possibly. I just think he's off. He's really having struggling finding the strike zone. And every game, you can't just strike out. You can't just walk a guy per inning and expect to get away with it in the major leagues. And, I'm not going to play any bats against him either. I'm just sort of Manaea I have as a reasonably high actual question mark that I probably will play some of, but I'm not into the other. I'm not into anything else.
2 months from now, this could be NLCS. This could be a great game. This Dodgers Astros.
It can't be NLCS. It could have been back in the day.
Oh, that's right. Keep forgetting.
No, remember they stole the World Series from us.
Keep forgetting that Houston is now in the American League. This could be a World Series game, though. I mean, McCullers and Buehler. This is a good baseball game, man. You got two good pitchers against 2 good hitting teams, and I don't think I'm playing any of it for fantasy. That's I can describe it. Do you think any of this is worth a shot?
I think it'll be really fun at Dodger Stadium tonight. I think that you're going to see a lot of angry people. It's going to be hard to play against, and I could see McCullers having a blow-up game. If you're playing the night slate, I think you can stack the Dodgers
Okay.
in that format. But if you're playing the day slate, the whole slate, I just don't see the upside being quite as high in doing that. I definitely could see them getting to him. It's interesting. It's going to be a fun situation. The city's kind of buzzing about it already. I live so close to the stadium. I'm going to see everybody walking around with their Astros and Dodger gear later today. It'll be fun. It'll feel like a playoff type atmosphere. But I don't think for DFS that it's that much of a priority. I do think that, again, if you are, I said, we're not looking for all that upside in the pitchers, but if you want the one with the most upside the most consistent upside, it's Buehler. He's expensive. Does it even matter on FanDuel? That's sort of what I'm wondering about. And Buehler starts this year. So he's just, I want to just really quick touch on something. I know we got to go soon, but like Buehler, I posted something. I said, who wins the NL MVP? Just, I couldn't find anybody who you could really compete with Tatis because there's nobody who's going to come close to him. And I didn't want to put Muncy because there's about 7 Dodgers I could name. The only guy I see with an outside chance, and it's not going to happen. I also not a big pitchers getting MVP fan, but Walker Buehler is 11-1 and has a chance to have a sub-2 ERA. Basically win every pitching category possible. If he ends up 20-1 with a below 2 ERA, you might have to actually consider him for MVP. And he's only had 3 non-quality starts this year and 3 non-quality going back to last year. I think it's almost like 26 out of 29 or 27 out of 30. Pretty ridiculous. So on FanDuel, both for upside and for safety, even against Houston, I think that he's a really, really strong play at what should be low ownership. So I do have Buehler on my list of pitchers. That's basically all I've got from this game.
All right. You want to wrap it up?
Yep. So pitchers for me, Wheeler stands out significantly ahead of everybody else for me. And then I'm trying to decide if I want to pay up, it would be Buehler or Minaya. If I want to pay middle, it would be Cease or Maeda. If I want to pay low, I'm looking at Garrett and Patino. And then there's guys like Lyles mixed in. There's guys like Molly on FanDuel mixed in. Ryu's mixed in that middle group too. So I have interest in all of them. I don't have them exactly ranked yet because I think a lot of them are similar outside of Wheeler. Wheeler is significantly ahead of everyone else for me. My stacks are, this is not in order, but these are my favorite stacks that I'm trying to decide what the order is going to be. It'll be the Yankees, but the Boston-Detroit game, Milwaukee, Atlanta, the Cubs and Rockies mini stacks. I probably will use them as complementary stacks to my main stacks.
I'm going to be playing 5 lineups, so it's going to be Wheeler and 5 other pitchers. That being something like Cease, Molly, Walker, Ryu, Maeda, Patina, somebody in one of those 5 of those 6 probably. Maybe Max Fried if I'm feeling particularly cheeky. And then with the hitting, I like the Yankees the best, I think, all things being equal. And then probably, I'm playing a couple of like bigger ones without, and spreading out a little bit. So I'll probably have some exposure to the Colorado, some exposure to Chicago, the Yankees, and whatever. I guess I'd love a low owned sub, maybe San Francisco. I don't know, but I'm kind of a little bit too chalky right now. But maybe I could fix that a little later. But for now, it's Yankees will probably be the Yankees or something in cores. I think.
I don't know that the Yankees are going to be so popular, but I do think they'll have ownership. But I think you're okay. I mean, I really think it's going to be spread out outside of Chicago and Colorado.
I mean, after 5-man stack the Yankees and take one-offs from that freaking Colorado Chicago game, it's really cheap. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It'd
be a little chalky, but certainly not for the higher buy-in stuff. Maybe
right,
more for the longer shots. It would be a little bit too chalky.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I will post my plays and Sheets has his sheets up. Good luck to everybody. And Sheets will not be with us, I don't believe, tonight. So it'll be me for 6 Eastern. And if I can get someone else, a nice little surprise guest to join me, I'll let you guys know. But it should be a good time. Good luck to everyone out there, and let's crush it.